Alright guys, hey, what's going on? My name's Vox, and I've been kind of getting a lot of questions regarding a specific topic that I honestly would not have thought was actually all that relevant at the moment. Like, I don't know, it kind of bothered me that people actually expected legitimate results from this. But since I've never made a video like this, and a lot of people are asking, I'm still going to make it. However, I'm going to have a disclaimer. So, this video is about how the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 660 performs with the Battlefield 4 Beta. A lot of people want to know how that and my 7850 perform with the Battlefield 4 Beta. However, one thing should be noted. The Battlefield 4 Beta is a very, very old build of Battlefield 4. It is terribly optimized. Nobody has released graphics drivers to help improve performance for the game just yet. And overall, the game runs terribly. Like, this isn't even, if you have a crappy system, it's going to run terribly. The game as a whole runs terribly. It is terribly optimized. Everybody across the board are getting terrible frame rates, unless you just have, like, the most powerful PC in the world with, like, 2 GTX Titans back to back. It's terribly optimized. It does not run well at all. There are a variety of factors that will play into some of the issues you see on the screen as far as frame rate drops goes, and those are mostly code related or server related. So I'm going to be giving you the minimum, the maximum, and the average frame rates for each graphical setting using my GTX 660. However, keep in mind there will be random stutters, drops, and just overall freezes in the gameplay, because again, this game runs terribly as far as graphics are concerned. So if you're looking into graphics cards and trying to figure out what the Battlefield 4, what card will run Battlefield 4, using the beta will not tell you a damn thing. I can tell you that right now. I can run Battlefield 3 on almost maximum graphics, pretty close to 60 frames a second. Battlefield 4 does not look that much better than Battlefield 3. And yet the highest frames I got on Battlefield 4 beta was 48, and that is on low. Okay, starting at the top. Using a NVIDIA GeForce GTX 660 graphics card. I have one from Gigabyte, I believe. On Ultra, the minimum frames per second that I got within a 2-minute interval were 2 frames a second. The maximum I got were 32 frames per second, and the average across the 2-minute interval were 18 frames per second. And I do have the fraps counter up on the screen in the video so you can see about what you're getting as you play. Different areas of the map, of course, have different frame options, but basically, as soon as any action happens in this beta, your frames drop entirely. Another note I needed to make is that I am running this game at 1920 by 1080 at 60 Hz. So, just so you're aware of that. So at 1080p, minimum of 2 frames on Ultra, maximum of 32, average of 18. This is not really playable for an FPS. If you're used to, having an older system and not getting great frames on first-person shooters, then you maybe would be able to tolerate 18 frames a second in one sense, but considering the amount of hiccups and stutters and just overall it'll just completely stop showing frames for a second and then you'll be dead and not know why, it's not really that playable. Moving on to high, again, 1080p. Minimum frames per second, 3. Maximum frames a second, 34. Average, 24. This should be a significant graphical change going from Ultra to high, and there's only about a 2 to 4 frames per second difference. That already tells you alone that this is not really going to be relevant to the actual game itself, so I hope you all are in fact aware of that. But I'm still providing the information for you all. So minimum 3, which isn't really relevant, maximum 34, average 24. 24 is closer to 30 FPS. Not ideal at all for first-person shooters, but playing at 30 frames per second when that's all you can manage is actually a lot more ideal than 18, of course. Dropping it down to medium settings. Now medium should be, what most people can run. That should be a drastic decrease from Ultra. And yet, look at the numbers. Minimum 5 frames per second, maximum 39 frames per second, average 28. So a 5 frame per second maximum increase, a 4 frame per second average increase. Still not even up to 30 frames per second. Still not all that tolerable with the random hiccups and frame drops present on the screen. Now the lowest possible settings, you can set it at 1080p for Battlefield 4 Beta. I got a minimum of 5 frames per second, again. A maximum of 48 frames per second. That is a huge increase. However, that only lasted for like 2-second intervals when I was staring at a wall. And then an average of 29 frames per second. This is still, even on the lowest graphical setting possible with a pretty decent graphics card, a relatively newer graphics card, average of 29 frames per second. Nah. So that is the performance of the card with the Battlefield 4 Beta, but I must, again, disclaim to you that this is not, a good benchmark of performance for the card or the game itself, as the beta is just shit as far as optimization goes. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Hope I answered some of your questions. Some of you all are still asking about the AMD card I have in Choose Computer. I will be attempting to do that test when I have a little bit more time, but I wanted to make sure I got this one out to you all. Again, hope you enjoyed. Do keep in mind, again, the game runs like shit. This isn't, this isn't my card lacking. This is the game being terribly optimized because it's an old beta that they're trying to pretend everybody's participating in a beta test. Keep that in mind. Use this going forward. Thank you for watching and see you next time.